What if beneath the still pines and along the winding trails something out there is waiting and watching? What if national parks were actually created to cover up something secret, something you might not be able to handle? A recent story came in about police in Yellowstone dragging something out of an abandoned ranger station. What they dragged out of that station still raises questions no one wants to answer. And there are other stories cops and park rangers never want to speak of, especially the ones where hikers vanish without a trace. And through it all, a question hangs in the air. What else is living in the places we pretend to understand? Why do these things keep happening? And when will the truth come out? Welcome to Weird Encounters, a place where the ordinary fades into shadow and the unexplainable comes alive. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and become part of our ever-growing community of the curious. Now prepare yourself, because what you are about to hear is not for the faint of heart. This story came in just recently. It is a chilling eyewitness story from Yellowstone National Park. What began as a missing persons case led to a horrifying discovery that no one was prepared for. What the cops uncover is more terrifying than anything the park brochures ever warned you about. I haven't written this down until now. It's been eating at me. What we found that day, it still keeps me up. And I wasn't even one of the ones who went all the way down there. I was nearby. I heard the screams. I smelled that rot. I saw what they dragged out. This happened in October of 2021. I was part of a seasonal cleanup crew working for a contractor that helps the park with trail maintenance and debris clearing, after summer ends and before winter kicks in full. I'm not a ranger or anything, just temporary labor. But I've always liked the outdoors, and Yellowstone seemed like a cool gig. My job was mostly to clear brush and pack out trash left by idiot tourists who don't care what they leave behind. There's a canyon called Lamar River Canyon, part of the Lamar Valley area, real remote section of Yellowstone. Gorgeous, but not exactly high traffic. That week, we'd been helping mark down trees along a little-known trail that splits off the Lamar River Trail, one that barely anyone uses anymore. It's not even on most updated maps. Old fire damage closed it off years ago. Anyway, a park ranger named Jesse had been getting reports from hikers about strange smells and gutted animals along the riverbank, like elk or deer, but not eaten the way wolves or bears would. More like torn apart for no reason, organs missing, no signs of feeding. Some of the carcasses were just bones and skin, but no scavenger would leave meat like that untouched. Then, 2 campers go missing. A couple from Idaho, just off their honeymoon. The guy's brother said they were doing a private camping trip, wanted to be off the beaten path. They didn't check in for their exit day, so rangers flagged it and sent people to look. I wasn't supposed to be part of the search, but since our crew was already in the general area, Jesse asked if we could keep an eye out for anything unusual while doing trail cleanup. So we did. The other 3 guys on my team were a bit older than me. They didn't seem too worried, just thought it'd be a bear, but I remember getting this tight feeling in my chest all day, like something was off. It got worse when we found the first campsite, or what was left of it. Torn tent, sleeping bags shredded like confetti. No blood, just slash marks all over everything. Not like claws, cleaner, smoother, like surgical almost. Their gear was still there, their phones too. One of the guys from my crew, Todd, picked one up and it still had battery. No signal out there, but there were a few pictures on it. One of them made me sick to my stomach. It was just trees and the guy's face in the foreground like a selfie. But in the background, maybe 20 feet away, behind a trunk, there was something. I swear, something tall and dark, almost blending in with the bark, but its face, or the absence of one, looked wrong. Like too smooth. No real features, just a hole where the mouth should be. It looked like it was watching. We reported the site, obviously, and rangers came in. That night, they found drag marks, deep ones, like something heavy had been pulled off the trail toward an old ranger station, one that had been out of use since the 80s. The weird thing is, that place wasn't anywhere near where the campers were last seen, so either they wandered way off course, or someone, or something dragged them there. Next morning, Jesse tells us to stay put while a few law enforcement guys, park investigators, and 2 rangers go check it out. We were at base camp near the trailhead, about 3 miles out. Radios were working fine at first, then static, full blackout. We waited. About 3 hours later, one of the rangers comes stumbling back, alone, bleeding from the shoulder. I'll never forget the look in his eyes, like he'd stared into something he wasn't supposed to see. He didn't say a word at first, just sat down and shook. Eventually, the medics got enough out of him to learn that 2 of the guys who went in were still inside, and something had come up through the floorboards. It took another full day for them to bring in a team from Jackson Hole with proper hazmat gear and weapons. They didn't explain much, just said there was a risk of rabies or exposure to hazardous material. That night, around 3 a.m., we heard something howling out there. Not wolves. It started low, almost like humming, then rose into this shrill, twisted shriek. I've never heard anything like it in my life. Every hair on my body stood up. Even the forest seemed to go dead silent after. Next morning, the guys came back with something in a body bag, but it wasn't shaped right. Longer, too long, like the proportions were off, and I swear it moved. Just a twitch, but I saw it. They said they found what was left of the campers, inside the station, not dead, barely alive, starved, eyes swollen shut, covered in scratches like they'd been trying to claw their way through stone. No memory of what happened. According to one of the nurses later, here's the part that really screws me up. The old station had a basement. Most people didn't know it. Supposed to be sealed, but it wasn't. The entry had been forced outward, from below. There was a crawl space down there with marks all over the concrete, deep gouges, blood, old and new, and these symbols, carved into the floor. Not native, not animal, just wrong. They wouldn't let any of us see it, hauled everything out, burned the building to the ground the next night, said it was unstable and dangerous. But one of the firefighters told me off the record that when they lit it up, something screamed. Like actually screamed, from underneath. I left the job early. Couldn't sleep. Kept seeing that thing in the selfie. Kept hearing the howl. Back in Cody, I tried asking around. An old ranger at the bar told me there's been stories for years about something under the Lamar Valley. People disappearing. Animals gutted and stacked in weird patterns. Even a few native folks won't go near that area after dark. And get this, there's a spot on some of the old geological surveys near that station site where the rock layers dip way down unexpectedly, like a sinkhole or a cavern, but it doesn't show on any of the new maps. I don't know what it was, man. Some cryptid? A demon? A failed experiment from decades back? I just know it wasn't natural, and I don't think it's gone. This story was submitted by a man named Dave from Oregon. If you have any similar situations or anything that can help, please put it in the comments section below. I don't really know how to explain this, but I'll do my best. I heard stories before, sure. Weird stuff happening in the woods, missing hikers, lights in the sky, all that, but nothing prepares you when it happens to you. This happened last summer, August 2023, in the Mount Hood National Forest up near Zigzag, Oregon. My cousin Drew and I had decided to do a weekend trip, kind of last minute. He's a photographer, mostly landscapes and wildlife, and I just wanted to disconnect for a bit. I'd been working non-stop in Portland and was burning out. We packed up light, planned to hike some of the less popular trails, Old Maid Flat area mostly. We weren't expecting anything dramatic. It's dense forest out there, but not known for anything too extreme. There's a trail called Burnt Lake that gets some traffic, but we broke off from that and went west toward a section that barely shows up on maps. Drew said he'd read about an abandoned fire watch post, or maybe some old miner's shack out there. But we never found that. What we did find was something else entirely. So day one goes fine. We hike about 6 miles in, set up camp near a small creek, saw bear scat, but nothing fresh. Got a fire going, watched the stars. The place gets dark, that kind of black where your hand disappears in front of your face without a light. Around 2 or 3 a.m., I woke up to a noise, not an animal. It sounded like gravel crunching, but slower, like dragging maybe. I looked over and Drew was already sitting up. He whispered that he heard it too. So we sat there, listening. Nothing for a minute. Then a soft thump, followed by something like claws or nails scratching against bark. We didn't leave the tent. I had my knife and a flashlight in reach, but that's not much comfort in that kind of dark. Eventually, the sounds stopped. We didn't sleep much after that. Next morning, we debated heading back, but figured it was just an animal, maybe a cougar passing through, so we hiked further west. That's when we saw the opening. It was just off a small ridge, hidden by brush and fallen trees. Didn't look natural. The rocks had these markings, almost like carvings, but worn down, like they'd been there forever. No moss on the stone, even though everything else was green. That should have been the first red flag. The opening led into a narrow, sloping tunnel, not very deep at first, just 20 or 30 feet in. Drew wanted to take some shots inside, said the light coming in from behind made for cool framing. I didn't want to go in, but I followed him anyway. Inside it opened into a larger chamber. Cold air rushed out like the cave was breathing. The walls were smooth in some spots, almost like they'd been polished. And there were these symbols. Not drawings, not runes. They looked almost biological. Veiny. Wrong. Then the smell hit us, like rotting meat, but with something metallic underneath. Drew started gagging. I told him we needed to go now, but as we turned around, there was a sound behind us, a clicking noise, like a bunch of little rocks tapping together. It echoed, but not like a normal cave echo. It moved, traveled, got closer. We aimed our flashlights down the tunnel. Nothing, just empty space. Then Drew's beam caught something just for a split second. It was hanging from the ceiling, or maybe it had been clinging to the side. Pale gray, no eyes, no mouth. Just a long segmented body with arms, way too many arms, and the fingers looked like joints wrapped in skin. When the light hit it, it twitched. Then it vanished. We ran. Outside, everything was dead quiet. No birds, no wind. Just a thick pressure in the air, like a storm was about to hit, but the sky was clear. Drew kept saying he felt something crawling under his skin, like static, like something saw him. I felt it too, like we'd stepped through a door we weren't meant to find. We hiked back toward camp but couldn't find it. I mean that literally. We had GPS, compass, even flagged trees on the way in. Nothing looked familiar. It was like the forest changed behind us. That's when the time got weird. Our watches both said it was still early afternoon, but the sun was low. Too low. Then we saw shadows moving toward us that didn't match anything real. One looked like it was on all fours, another was tall and thin and just kind of floated sideways between the trees. We walked. No talking. Just walked until dark, then forced ourselves to stop because we kept going in circles. Slept in shifts. No fire. Didn't want to draw attention. At some point in the middle of the night, I swear I saw one of them standing just outside the tree line, not moving, watching, and I don't think it had a face, just a smooth spot where the face should be, and long fingers, twitching like it was thinking. Next morning, everything looked different. Bright, birds singing again. We stumbled across a trail we knew we hadn't crossed before. 15 minutes later, we were back at the car. But here's the part that really freaks me out. When we got to the ranger station to report the strange cave, they acted like they didn't care. One guy looked uncomfortable and said the area wasn't accessible to the public, and if we'd gone in, we probably violated some protected site. Another guy, older, just nodded slowly and said something like, "You found the breathing rock, huh?" Then he smiled, but not in a friendly way. I asked what he meant, and he just told us to stick to the marked trails next time. Drew tried uploading the photos he took inside the cave. Most of them were corrupted, just digital static or pitch black, even the ones taken with flash. One photo still shows part of the opening, and there's something reflected faintly in the rock. Something tall and twisted and not human. I haven't gone hiking since. I don't even like being near trees after dark. I've talked to a few people online, Reddit mostly. One guy said he thinks we found a crawler nest. Another said it sounded like a government-sealed site from the 60s. Some kind of failed deep earth experiment. I don't know. I just know something is down there. And we weren't supposed to see it. In the heart of North Carolina's most treacherous wilderness, two experienced hikers come face to face with a creature that should not exist. What they witnessed was not a bear, not a man, and not of this world. My name's Rick. I'm 43. I live just outside of Asheville, North Carolina, and what happened to me and my friend Steve last spring in the Linville Gorge wilderness. It changed how I look at the world. I used to think cryptids and stuff like that were mostly internet crap. Fun to read. Gave me goosebumps sometimes. But now, I think some of it's real. Or at least something out there is. This happened in May 2023. We planned a 3-day backpacking trip down into the Gorge. If you're not familiar with the area, Linville Gorge is one of the most rugged, remote sections of the Blue Ridge Mountains. It's often called the Grand Canyon of the East, and it's beautiful but unforgiving. Steep cliffs, thick forest, not a place you want to get lost in. There's barely any signal once you drop in. Steve and I had hiked it before. We've known each other since college, both ex-military, both into backcountry hiking, so we weren't amateurs. I say that because I know what normal fear is, like the fear of slipping on a trail or hearing a bear nearby. But this was something else. We parked near the Table Rock trailhead and hiked in with full packs. We wanted to bushwhack a bit off the marked trails and make camp down near the river. First night was fine. Saw some deer, a bunch of wild turkeys, even a copperhead sunning itself near a rock. Nothing strange. The second day was when things shifted. We hiked upriver, deeper into the gorge. We were trying to get to an old overhang cave Steve had seen marked on some older hiker forums. Around mid-afternoon, we both started feeling watched. I know that sounds dumb, but there's a certain silence you notice in the woods. The birds stop. The bugs stop. You hear your own breathing too clearly. That kind of silence. Steve kept saying he thought he saw movement in the trees. Not movement like a bear or person, though. More like light bending wrong, like a shimmer. He said it was like someone had smeared Vaseline on part of the forest, and it kept shifting as if whatever it was moved. At first, I didn't see it. But then, just as we were passing this little gully full of ferns, I caught something out of the corner of my eye, like the light glitched, like heat waves off asphalt, but colder somehow. It made my stomach clench. We both got real quiet. We didn't talk, we just kept hiking fast. I could feel Steve picking up his pace behind me. The air felt heavy, and there was this weird pressure in my head, like when you're diving and don't equalize right. We found the cave late that afternoon. It wasn't very deep, but it offered shelter. Built a small fire, cooked a meal, tried to shake off the weirdness. We didn't talk about what we saw. I think we were both hoping we'd imagined it. That night was hell. Around 1 a.m., I woke up because I thought I heard whispering. Not loud. Real quiet, like someone trying not to wake you but still talking. I thought it was Steve at first, maybe talking in his sleep. but he was dead still in his bag on the other side of the fire. The fire had burned low, just embers, and beyond it, near the edge of the cave, something was standing there. I couldn't focus on it. I mean that literally. My eyes tried, but they kept sliding off it, like it didn't want to be looked at. The way the firelight hit the cave wall behind it looked wrong, distorted. It stepped sideways, slow, and I swear I saw trees through it. I reached for my knife, not that it would have done anything. My hands were shaking so bad I nearly dropped it. I didn't move otherwise, just stared. Then it crouched, like inhumanly low, and vanished, not like ran off, like blinked out. I stayed awake until dawn. Steve said he saw it too. He admitted it when the sun came up, said it was crouching behind a tree watching him while he pretended to sleep. He said it looked like glass, like walking glass shaped like a man, but off. Too long. The limbs weren't right. We packed up and left immediately. Halfway out of the gorge, we found prints. Not boot prints, not bare feet either. These were deep, symmetrical, but with only 3 toes. No claws. Just long, rounded impressions, about 1.5 feet apart like a biped. The moss hadn't even had time to rise back up. We heard something following us. You know that feeling when someone steps where you just were? We both kept checking behind us. I swear it was mimicking our steps. When we stopped, it stopped. When we moved again, so did it. Near the trailhead, just before we got back to the car, a ranger was there. He wasn't in uniform, though. No badge. Plain clothes, but with a handheld radio. He asked where we'd been. Not casual, more like confirming a log. Then he told us the gorge was closing for controlled burns, and we had to leave fast. But there weren't any signs posted. No smoke. And that trail wasn't listed for burns that week on the Forest Service website. I checked later. I asked him who he worked for, and he just smiled. Not friendly. More like a warning. We drove out, didn't talk for a while. Steve and I haven't gone back. I don't even like driving near Linville Gorge anymore. A few weeks later, I started reading into stuff. Found some old Appalachian folklore about mirror men or see-through watchers. Not much, just some threads on Reddit and a few posts on backcountry forums that got deleted real quick. But one guy talked about seeing something like what we saw while camping alone in Horrifying National Forest. He said it would stalk him and mimic his movements too. He called it a Glimmer man. I don't know if that's what it was, but it fits better than anything else I've read. Some hunters I know out near Boone say the Linville Gorge is cursed. One guy said his uncle saw a whole deer just freeze mid-run, like something was holding it in place. Then it dropped, throat slashed, no predator nearby. I don't know what's in those woods. I don't think it's from here, but it watches. It follows. And it makes sure no one gets a good look. And so, another strange encounter fades away. A trick of the mind, or something far more unsettling. That's for you to decide. Thank you so much for watching my stories. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Your support is what keeps this channel going.